So hi, and thank you. And we would like to start with a vignette from Field Notes. So, quote, a girl walks her two small dogs in the pedestrian lane along the boulevard, both attached to retractable leashes she holds in each end. One of the dogs is walking in front of her, while the other is trailing a bit behind, and then stops to sniff the ground. A man striding behind the dog comes to a screeching halt, almost stumbling over the stationary leashed dog. The man quickly turns left, bypasses the leash dog, and hurries along on his way. The girl, meanwhile, oblivious to the whole incident, keeps walking until the leash is fully stretched. And then she pulls, causing the dog resume walking. End of quote. This vignette, like many others, illustrates the common interaction that occurs when a human and a dog walk together in the cityscape. In most modern cities, the historical process of dog inclusion in urban sphere has been conditioned by the obligatory use of different objects, such as the leash, in order to control and regulate canine behavior in the city. Urban dogs experience the outer space almost exclusively while connected to their caregiver through the leash. And this has significant impact on human-dog relations and both species' well-being. And yet, the academic literature about leashes and dog walking is scarce, and most of it lacks an ethological perspective to it. As social anthropologists reading Mancini's manifesto, we discovered a fertile common ground between the current research and the user-centered approach, which focuses on the interplay between animal, technology, and contextual elements. In keeping with the spirit of the manifesto, we strive to identify and to understand the relationship between humans, dogs, and leashes in the urban sphere while moving away from an anthropocentric point of view. This kind of research, the knowledge it involves, and the contribution it might carry, unite animal-centered urban studies, human-animal studies, and animal-computer interaction. So, based on anthropological fieldwork, visual methods, and professional knowledge of dog behavior and training, we aspire to contribute to this body of knowledge through the analysis of the connectedness between human, dog, and leash in the city of Tel Aviv-Yafo. Sorry, slide, okay. So over the years, as you can see here, dogs have become an integral part of Tel Aviv-Yafo. Many dog owners share their apartment, which are usually pretty small, with their canine friends and take their dogs out for a walk at least twice a day. Dogs have high visibility in the city, strolling along their cycling owners through the boulevard, patiently waiting outside supermarkets, we can see, or lounging beside their owners at coffee shops. The increasing number of urban dog owners is a global trend, and yet Tel Aviv-Yafo municipality declares itself as the most dog-friendly city in the world. This has multiple manifestations in everyday life. Here, you can see a card called DigiDog. This is a dog's resident card, which issued by the municipality. So our research was conducted in two main boulevards, Ben Gurion and Rothschild. Those boulevards are designed to regulate various forms of movement. Both were constructed as a two-way street around central paved area for pedestrian and cyclists, and with public benches, coffee shops, and playground bordered with hedges and trees. Sorry. Okay. Today, we probe two main complementary assertions. First, we refute to the misconception that people gain exclusive control over dogs' movement and behavior by restraining them with a leash. Rather, we demonstrate that the leash creates a bidirectional system of communication between humans and dogs. Second, we present the Dog-Leash-Human unit as an entity in the social and spatial urban environment, while emphasizing its agency. Through a symmetrical analysis of the various actors, without preferring the human over other entities, we identified several layers of what we call human leash-dog relations. Here, today, we will elaborate only on the first one, which refers to an action initiated by one of the entities, transmitted along the leash to the other, such as the simple action of stopping. So while analyzing the data, we identified a number of what we name hotspots, favorable stopping points. Let us observe now a human hotspot. We can see that the man chooses to stop at the, chooses to stop at the coffee shop. We'll play it again. And adjust the dog, and the dog adjusts himself to its owner's behavior by moving to the other side in response to the switch in the leash, or by idly sitting next to him while he sips his coffee. The dog is obviously accustomed to this hotspot and its pattern of behaviors, which suggests that the dog gets familiar with objects and behaviors through human leash-dog unit movement. In other words, the dog acquired urban cultural capital while walking alongside his caregiver, connected by a leash. The harmonious motion we just saw of the different entities suggests that this unit is well practiced in the routine of multi-species urban experience. Hotspot, as we wish to claim, is not a human-only practice and concept. During our observation, we noticed that certain spots in grassy area and sandboxes are serving as classic canine hotspot, stopping point for many dogs in the urban space. Ethological research found that scent is used by dogs to map space and to communicate with other dogs. As scent is often embedded in a specific place, dogs are attracted to those exact spots, thus making it meaningful for the owners as well. Furthermore, we noticed that human and dogs doesn't share the same hotspots. While humans prefer to stop near coffee shops, benches, and crosswalks, dogs tend to stop next scratch passes, sandboxes, trees, or other dogs. So, what happens when one of the entities aims to stop at their own favorable hotspot?
So we will start with a quote. A dog and a woman attached by a leash strolling together alongside the boulevard. After passing a pedestrian crossing, the dog lowers his nose and stops to urinate on the grass at the boulevard. The caretaker doesn't notice the dog's action and keeps heading forward. The uncoordinated movement of the two results in tension in the leash. Only then the woman stops, looks at the dog, and waits. The dog finishes and approaches the woman. Then starts a ceremony. The woman smiles and pets the dog, which shows excitement. She commands him to sit. He follows her order and gets a treat. End of quote. So Lowe and Lian suggest that instead of making presumptions about entities and their power relations, researchers should apply an unbiased observation. In the case of human-dog interactions, there is no predefined hierarchy of power, as the situation is relative and depends on the action of both. One of them may lead, the other may follow, and each has a potential of agency. In the current example, the dog is the one stopping at his or her favorite spot, causing the woman to stop. Then the woman chooses to wait, and together they perform the ceremony. Unlike the previous example, here the human is experiencing and learning the urban canine space with and through her dog. That is, while being halted by the dog, the woman learns to identify the canine hotspot. Thus, we can see that the movement of human leash dog unit in the city includes multi-species knowledge, responsiveness, and interpretation of both humans and dogs. So the multi-species shared world emerges through the leash and its social agency as a mediator. The initiator of the action transmits by the leash a communication signal to the other entity. The leash, as we demonstrated, also works the other way around when it provides the entity on its other end the means to react. Hence, the leash serves as a two-way communication instrument. It enables both dog and human to compete over the right to lead and choose direction and rhythm at any given time. While humans can use force, pull the leash or shorten it, dogs can resist, using their body weight and strength to advance to a different direction or lie on the ground. But the movement of the multi-agent unit is not merely about harmony and coordination. Sometimes it includes struggle and negotiation, and the leash may function as a tug-of-war tool. In the last example, after completing the treat ceremony, each entity aims towards a different direction, which leads to a brief struggle. Then the woman gives in and changes her movement in order to fit the dog's needs. Therefore, we may learn that against common social conception, the human's motion is not autonomic, but rather dependent on the dog's, as they are both connected by the leash. So the human leash dog unit and relations are being formed and transformed through their entangled movement and mutual agency. The unit's elements are closely bound and entwined. They coexist and become together even when this manner of interrelating is resisted by one of them. Moreover, this conjoined unit has a spatial presence, as we will show in the next theme. So we would like to show another video now. So the dog stops because he saw another dog, and because he stopped, his human could not continue, and now the dogs are sniffing around, and they start to get complicated with the leashes. The owner, the woman, starts to pet the other dog. And you can see that the other guy is not really interested in the situation, but he cannot move because he's tied to his dog by a leash, by the leash. And there is a scene in the boulevard. They actually take space right now. The dogs are starting to play. The leashes are entangled. The woman soon going to give up and just leave the leash to try to untie the leashes and the units. And they continue to play, the dogs. And as you can see, they take space in the boulevard, and people, now that they are coming from the pedestrian lane, they will have to change their path in order to walk in the boulevard, so they will walk around them. They will notice the action, they will look at it, etc. So I continue. Leashing is defined as restraining and controlling someone's behavior, mostly an animal, using a leash or another type of harness. It prevents straying of anyone that is not allowed to roam free. But leashes, as we saw, can make a difference in the course of others' action in the public sphere. This video illustrates the social agency of the leash, which affects the two heterogeneous units. The leash's entanglement forces the owners into an undesired intimacy as reflected in their body language, and later compels the humans to work together in order to untangle the different leashes and units. Moreover, we argue that the leash's presence and length enable limited and direct movement of other entities in the boulevards. For example, as the leash stretches between them, the entity's motion alters the size and volume of the unit in the physical space, then making other pedestrians modify their movement as they are forced to change their path to avoid getting into the eye of the storm. And we move to discussion. Referring to Mancini's emphasis on animal-centered technology and artifacts' potential ability to improve interspecies communication, we will now present one practical implication that this research may carry. It is possible to expand the coding work and develop an application that will allow dog caregivers to photograph the movements of the leash while walking with the dog and get input about the communication signals conveyed through the leash and about the interaction with the dog as a whole. Additional documentation can be achieved with the help of positioning sensors on the leash, which will monitor its movement at different times and locations using GPS. This information can provide a fertile ground for relationship analysis, identification of points of conflicts and cooperation, and behavioral changes of both species. And this technique echoes the work of dog trainers who joined the walk and examined the interactions between entities through the movement of the leash. So if we continue this line of thought and digitize it, we can help improve the well-being of dogs and their human counterparts in the urban environment. Thank you.